Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's Lair. I'm, of course, Larry the Chupacabra, and today we're going to jump into the awesome world of Ludum Dare, a long-running game jam which encourages you to, either as an individual or in a team, create a fun game over the course of a weekend, including most, if not all, of the assets, and base it around the community-voted theme, which in this case is Beneath the Surface. And we have a lot of interesting games that play around with that particular concept. So we will jump right in and take a look at the first selection of 5 really awesome games picked out of random from both the 48-hour and the regular team-based game jam, and get started and take a look and give a little bit of feedback. For those of you unfamiliar with me or how I like to get involved with game jams, I obviously like to showcase a large selection of games from different game jams, but I also like to, in taking a bite out of a random selection of games, also provide a little bit more meaningful feedback to the game creators, both through how I feel the game runs and plays and interacts with the player, but, also in my interpretation of the story, or in this case, the mood of the story, and how everything sort of fits together, and maybe even where I see a game like this going in the future. So with that in mind, let's jump into the first 5 selections from the Ludum Dare from April 2014 with Fishing Cat. Fishing Cat is a very cute sort of a fishing simulator done up by Adam Clifton and Christy Kate for the jam portion of the Ludum Dare. Like any other fishing simulator, obviously our goal here is, as a fuzzy cute little cat, to catch as many fish as we can to make all of those shiny cat bucks so that we can upgrade our gear, find the treasure hopefully at the bottom of the sea, strike it rich finding pirate booty, and go on our merry fuzzy lives in fame and fortune. And to accomplish this task, we have basically a force bar. As you wind up your arc into the swing of the cast of your reel, you get more force to go even deeper to catch the even more valuable fish, because, I'm sure you could catch a little boatload of those tiny little minuscule fish, but that just wouldn't be very exciting now, would it? So, the deeper you go, the more valuable the fish, and as you get even deeper beyond the default range of your rod and reel, you'll notice that the fish get a little bit stronger and a little bit more peckish in what sort of hook that they're interested in nibbling on. So, to fix this little problem, we have a handy-dandy cat shop full of reel upgrades, rod upgrades, and of course bait upgrades, because, you can't invite a fish to dinner and a date without something to lure them in, right? And these play directly into your challenges through catching fish, where, number 1, if you see a ... much like in the literary sense, this means that the fish is quite bored with whatever's going on and isn't going to bite onto that hook of yours. Alternatively, if there's a little exclamation mark above the fish's head, they are far too strong for your rod and reel, and they will tug you all the way down to the bottom. And what is this? Is that a treasure chest? I think it is, but I will leave that up to you to play and find out what is inside. On the other hand, if you are strong enough to pull up that fish, it will get flopped cutely into the back of the boat so that you can take it with you and sell it in the fish market. Now, I really enjoy the artwork in this. It's very simple, and you get a lot of mileage out of a combination of very simple gradients and a little bit of texturing in there. But I also really enjoy not so much just the overall art style, but the cat's character. He's got a lot of really great expressions. It's almost like sort of chibi-esque art style, and it really gets the message across of what's going on in the game and the mood of the cat. It's very cute, and as it sort of lies into the theme, this is a sort of game that, everything is what lies beneath. There's fish, and there's even further fish, and there's big grouper fish, and eelfish, and little lanterny fish, and I really enjoy that. It's a really great combination of fish. It kind of spices things up with more than just different sized fish that happen to be a slightly different color, but it also stays out of the realm of completely ridiculousness, which you find in games like Ridiculous Fishing, where you end up having to shoot the fish up in the air in order to get money at all. There were a couple things that did end up bugging me a tiny little bit about the gameplay mechanics. The wind-up on the reel, you really don't get much of a window to actually hit it so that you can go as deep as possible. This is probably very intentional. You would want it very easy to wind up really deep into the water, but maybe give you a slight window to really tap the peak of your wind-up. And other than that, the other thing that kind of was a little bit iffy is something about my browser setup made the clicking of the hook to make it rise back up just so slightly to line it up with that really big prize fish just at the edge of that fish's area was just a little bit too sensitive, and I ended up overshooting or undershooting a lot of fish. It's almost like I might even describe it as a little bit jittery at times, but other than that, I really enjoy it, and I'd really love to see you guys add some music to this game, and I think it could make a really great phone game on the whole. So very nice job, you two. Keep up the great work. Alrighty, after that we have Rave by Chickadee Games, another jam entry, which features two very lovely ravers in the middle of a graveyard, in the middle of the night, who are dancing it out and mashing it out, digging up various bodies and trying to create some sort of LSD-driven zombies. And what lies beneath? Well, that is the question. I never did get into that casket to find out, but the goal of this game is you're hanging out with your lovely raver buddy there, digging a hole, and he gets a little bit peckish after a little bit of digging, and he needs you to help give him snacks to help keep him fueled so he can keep digging before the time runs out. And your eventual goal is to get to the very biddity bottom of the screen before the time runs out and you get rested. The gameplay mechanics are pretty simple and straightforward. You simply click and hold your mouse in order to line up the little dot with your dancing, digging buddy pal there, and make sure that the food that you hurl at him hits him right atop the noggin so he can have a snack and get a sugar rush and dig as fast as he darn well can, before the time runs out, of course. The challenge here is less in the mechanic of holding down your mouse and trying to line up that dot, and more so the sporadic and rather random movements of your dancing raver buddy pal down there, as he really gets into the beat and suddenly decides to gyrate off to the left or quickly swirl around and dance his Navanax over to the left. It's can be a little bit difficult, but you gotta try and time it so that you get into the rhythm of the song and really get him when he's already down there and moved and starts dancing in a new location. Especially difficult once it gets really down there, because that food can really arc off the sides of the crypt or off the sides of the grave walls and really bounce around before hitting him or slamming down into the dirt. It sounds like a simple enough challenge, but it can be very difficult at times. I mean, I say he can sporadically move, and I really mean he can really move it randomly and really throw you off. You think you're in the swing of things, and along with the beat of his movements one moment, and the next moment he's gyrating off to the left. I mean, what is a man to do when they've got a handful of chocolate cake and that guy down there is hungry? I mean, really. The artwork does a nice job of following along with the theme of Rave. The background is very simplistic and illustrates a nice sort of silhouette of a graveyard late at night, maybe just as dusk is hitting and the twilight is setting in the evening. And our characters are these neon glowing ravers, and less so in the woman, but the guy, he's got those sort of party sunglasses, also neon tie, really bright go-go tie-type pants. It really sets the tone. Really like that. The sound also drives into that sort of mood where it's very, fun and bouncy and kind of head-bobby a little bit. The character in the grave doesn't always dance along to the music, but that's not nearly necessary. He's got a really fun sort of bouncy dance. He knobs his knees together, kind of shakes, really gyrate, like he doesn't really know what's going on. Like maybe he's just a little bit too into it, but really isn't sure where he's at. I really dig it. It's really fun, kind of bubbly, almost. And even the cop at the end there really gets into it. He's like, oh, you're under arrest, but first, let's jab to this dance. Oh, yeah. This is a really fun game. It's got a really good mood. It's got a really good, simple play style. I mean, I always love a nice point-and-click game. The only things that sort of struck me as a little out there was the music is kind of really sharp at times, especially the sound effects. They're very arcadey, which isn't the bad part, just as that they're really shrill and the music is kind of loud. Maybe play around with the balance there a little bit to try and strike a nice even tone. And then the other thing is that the mouse clicking is just a little bit sticky. It's hard to get her to really throw food immediately at the edge of the grave. But otherwise, if you're throwing it to the far side, maybe just add an arc so you can see how the food will get hurled down into the grave and bounce off the wall so you can maybe get a trick shot off the edge. Otherwise, very nice job, folks here at Chickadee Games. I believe it's Adam J. behind this. Very nice job. Keep up the good work. After Rave, we have Asteroids by Jonsel. which is a fun little game that reminds me a lot of the old sort of 8-bit arcadey game of Asteroids, where you're a tiny little white ship in the middle of an asteroid field, just trying to survive your bestest without colliding into any of those nasty asteroids potentially flying towards your space station. Starting out in Asteroids, you spawn into a massive field of very simple geometric asteroids in a small little fighter jet. And your goal is to destroy every last one of these big, rocky, clunky buggers. And you do that by shooting through their very hard outer shell until you reach the molten nougaty inside, and they explode into a shower of gems, which, presumably in the future, may be used to purchase upgrades or to modify your ship. At present, there isn't really a way to lose the game. You can crash your ship all over the place to your heart's content without taking any damage, but you can have quite a bit of fun trashing the asteroid field. You get nice little laser sounds, and the asteroids can collide into one another and explode on their own if you get up to ramming speeds and slam into the whole pack of them, which I found quite fun despite the initial reaction of like, You can even sort of ricochet your shots off the edge of this asteroid field and create a very lovely bouncing effect to get like a whole sort of... Maybe like, you want to shoot between two asteroids and hit a small one just for the hell of it. I actually kind of enjoyed that a little bit. The game's artwork is very simple and straightforward and fun. There's very nice animation of like little puffs of smoke as you jet around the field. The asteroids are very obviously asteroids, yet also very simple, so they're not too distracting. And the ship almost looks a little bit 3D, like it was made from like an RC car or something. I'm always down to clown with a very simple, fun sort of cartoonish art style. One thing that I might look into tweaking around a bit is the asteroids sort of get off clunking pretty early as far as sounds go, and it eventually sounds like you're standing on the edge of a really busy freeway, like there's a bunch of engines churning and grinding, and there's that guy way in the back whose engine is way too loud for his tiny little jalopy of a car. He's just there to make noise and annoy the crap out of everybody. But the sounds are strong. Of course, the ship has a nice little sound, and it's got nice little laser pew pew pew. So very nice job in that respect. I would just say add something like a death state or maybe a goal to the game in the future. I understand that in Game Jam's time is a factor. You probably had a really awesome idea to defeat the Galactic Empire. Other than that, it's a very nice, simple game. I had a lot of fun just sort of crashing my ship around, almost like in a sandboxy physics kind of way. However, I'm not entirely sure how this fits into what lies beneath. Maybe there's like something in the gems of the nougat of the asteroids. But hey, otherwise I really dig it. After Asteroids, we have Beneath the Trolls by Drew. You are some sort of fantastic man out on a nature hike, and you have been kidnapped by those dastardly evil cave trolls deep underground, and you have to find a way to escape back to the surface through endless maze of tunnels and tribulations and even a few puzzles. As we spawn into our cave-related adventure, we find ourselves as a small 8-bit man in some tattered clothes, and we have to find our way through this maze of wooden platforms and gems to the surface. So we have a few powers at our disposal. Our primary method is a little arrow pointer, which allows us to bounce a greater distance than we normally would up to hard-to-reach platforms. And of course, we also, through that very same mechanic, can pick up missiles so that we can shoot these evil cave trolls and keep them from murgling us. Cave trolls, of course, have the ability to not only run up to us and bite off our face, but can also launch little fire particles down from on high and slam into us and burn up our tender little body. Which, of course, I don't know about you, but I like it when my insides stay on the inside and not crispy. Unless, of course, I was made of bacon, and then I'd probably eat myself. So our first challenge, obviously, is staying alive, getting through these different platforms to eventually reach the surface. And our second sort of challenge is to solve very simple yet also involved puzzles, because there can be quite a few trolls trying to kill us all at once by dropping bomb particles on us, of little puzzles and traps little doors that need to be opened by holding down onto a pedestal and looking all the way up at the camera on the surface in order to see that the troll has entered this area of pressure plates so that we can get off of ours, and she will stay hanging out in her little area so that our path will remain clear until we reach the surface. So we have a nice mixture of different challenges and puzzles to make a very lovely 8-bit platformer. This the artwork is very nice. It's retro, it's 8-bit. It's got a lot of detail in its fine little particles, but not too much at the same time. All of the music in the background makes sense. There's a very nice sort of Indiana Jones-esque adventure track playing in the background. When you use your turbo jump to click up onto a platform, it makes a nice vroing. And when you grab those gems, it makes a very reassuring and very satisfying clink, 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 clink. So those are all very strong, very well-refined mechanics that make the game really enjoyable. The other thing that I wasn't exactly expecting that I really enjoyed was the fact that the very top part of the screen is reserved for this second view of what's going on the surface, which is really important for dodging the trolls' fire coming down from the surface, even though it gives you a little reticle warning at the very top of your screen that tells you which direction danger's coming from. But it also allows you to do this interesting combination of matching the puzzle interactions underground with what's going on the surface. For example, as I was saying before, you can step on a pressure plate which opens up some latches and causes a troll to be lured into a room full of pressure plates that allow you to progress and not have to worry about any sort of magical blockades blocking your path to the surface. Which this sort of mechanic becomes especially important and also a little bit difficult to mess around with later on when there is a veritable horde of trolls and monsters hanging out on the surface, just firing barrage after barrage after barrage of evil magic particles at you, trying to make you dead. Which gives you two options. You can either just try to avoid all of the dangers, which would be the standard approach, or if you think your aim is good enough and you can lead the target just well enough, you can actually try to shoot through the bedrock and hit those trolls so you don't have to worry about them later. But be careful, there's some in your path too. So overall, very fun game mechanics. They provide a nice mixture of goofiness and challenge, a very strong art style all of its own, very simple yet not too complex, and a very nice mixture of sounds in the background. So very nice job, Mr. Drew. I don't think there was too much to say about the game that bugged me. Some of the controls can be a little bit slidey, but otherwise, it was great. Nice job. And of course, last but not least, is Under the Earth by Dragon Master 412. This was a really cool, old-school sort of dungeon crawler game where you jump out there, there's nothing too much going on around you, but there's a man next to a campfire, and there is a sword next to a door, and our only option is to move forward, go explore a dungeon, battle off hordes of insidious bats, avoid lava, and enjoy this three-dimensional 8-bit world, which is a little bit blocky, but you know it doesn't matter because there is adventure afoot. And this was really fun because it reminded me a lot of a tech demo that I saw recently where somebody took the original Legend of Zelda games, the 8-bit ones, I think they were on the Game Boy, and they put it into a 3D environment through Unity, hooked it up to the Oculus Rift, and you suddenly have this great medieval hack-and-slash experience in a retro arcade environment. And that's really the vibe that I get from Under Earth, and I think this would be a game that you could really hook up to the Oculus Rift and really go places, because not only does it obviously have you grab a sword, and there's stuff to stab underground, but there's also a progression of item gathering and levels, so after you're done battling out with the first score of bats, you notice, I can't really progress any farther over here, but over here, hidden past this waterfall in this little watery area, is another ladder, and it goes down, and what's this? Oh, there's a glove, and this glove solves a dilemma, because up above us there was a few sort of boulders blocking our path, but now we have this power glove, and what is back behind all these boulders? And the adventure continues anew with item progression and new challenges, which was fantastic. So you gotta kind of punch through all of these boulders, and then you reach your first boss fight. There's a gold bat that has something I want, and he's in the middle of a horde of bats, and I somehow have to get through all of them to murder him without losing my 20 hearts of health, or however much I had left when I was doing the recording. And this game, with this old school sort of environment, it's very fast paced. You can really rip through all of your enemies very quickly, but that's just the right amount of like spaced out items in order to really sort of get you interested and keep you going into the game. And then once you're done fighting all of these bats, you've killed the bats, you've received the golden key, or not the golden key, I guess the bat was golden and the key was blue, you can then go to the surface and unlock the next door. But what's this? Before I can get to the door, there's all of these chasms that I might fall into. Aha! That's what all these random boulders were for on the surface. I see, so I have to grab 3 of them and put them in line so I can reach the door. So there's a very nice mix of the hack and slash danger with bats, and then there's the obviously terrain danger if you're not paying attention to where you're running, of falling into a lava pit and dying instantly. And then there are these, you know, sort of interspersed puzzles of a cracked wall that you can bust through, or a puzzle that you need to use to insert some boulders. So I really enjoyed this game. It was this very nostalgic sort of experience for me, and I really enjoyed that. The other thing that I wasn't quite expecting that I got a real kick out of is if you go back to the start, and you notice that you don't have the orb to go to the final area of the game. I was never really able to find the extra keys in order to progress to the next zone beyond finding the power glove, but if you slide off to your right, you end up going through a invisible door or hole in the wall. And what is this? Are these some goofy hidden trophies in the form of an Easter egg? And you can roam around and there's another hidden door around the back of the lava pool, and that was pretty cool. I got a kick out of that too. It's very true to the old retro arcade games. A couple of things that I might end up tweaking about the game, for the only thing I can really find that bugged me too much. And this includes the animations for the sword, because initially I wasn't even sure if the sword was used for attacking or if it was instead used for guarding, because it actually looks like you're holding your sword up to parry an attack from an enemy. But other than adding in some more realistic sword swinging animations, I really dig the artwork. It's very true to the sort of retro style arcadey games. It's not too complicated, but it really adds quite a bit of detail both to iron bars or plant life hanging from the ceiling and walls. Maybe make the sprites and some of the iron bars blocking off those bats' flat surfaces because they look kind of funky when you rotate your camera slightly. But other than that, it's a really strong game. The mechanics are solid. You got a lot of really great sword play. You gotta be careful not to get too close so the bats will rustle your jibs. So it was a very nice job in that respect, and the only thing you could probably add is, just add some audio in the background, maybe some NPC interactions, and I think you've got a very great retro-style dungeon crawler game on your hands that you could really refine and probably release on Steam even. I really enjoy it. I'm probably going to go back and try to find that last key to progress to the next area. So excellent work, Mr. Dragon Master, and of course a very lovely, awesome group of games so far from everybody here at the Ludum Dare. I just found Ludum Dare, so I'm really impressed at what such a great community is here. And of course, for anyone interested in playing these games and you can't seem to find them in the search, I will have the links in the description. I have another great group of 5 more games on the docket already for the next recording that I will probably release early tomorrow. I have, of course, been Larry the Chupacabra. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you enjoy these videos, feel free to share them with your friends. All of that helps me out a great deal, and I will catch you next time. Toodaloo!